And we said that we would get started at 4 o'clock. We have a lot of exciting things to cover today. So I'm going to go ahead and start with the official opening. Again, good afternoon and welcome to Into the Polls Candidate Town Hall for Richland One School Board. We are so delighted to have each of you joining us. Want to send a special thank you to Dr. Jim Felder, Charles Austin, Vince Ford, and Chris Whitmire for being our resident expert resources on the voting process and other voting related matters. We're also especially proud to have all 10 candidates vying for a seat on the Richland School District 1 board confirmed to be with us this evening. We know that we have work to do to mobilize voters and maximize their voting participation ahead of the November 3rd elections. In addition to the national races, we have important decisions to make in state and local races as well. We are super excited about the partnership and initiatives that are growing out of our Zooming to the Polls sessions. Through our collaborative efforts, we are reaching lots of people in our area. And that is what makes our CH Votes campaign and these Zooming to the Polls sessions so special to us. We will continue to have regularly scheduled Zooming to the Polls sessions between now and Elections Day, each one covering a different topic. Next week on October the 14th, we'll be hosting Zooming to the Polls to meet the candidates for the Richland 2 School District race. We hope that you guys will save that date and join us for that session as well. Again, thank you for joining us today. Before I turn it over to our Senior Vice President of Communications, Cynthia Hardy, who will moderate today's session, I think I see we have a very special guest that joined us, former South Carolina Democratic Party Chair and Democratic candidate for U.S. Senate, Jamie Harrison, is on the call. He's here to provide a few words to us about the importance of our
and if we do, you gotta
to mobilize voters. Likewise, we have reached out to Alice James, Edward Mercer, and Kevin Bishop, and Senator Lindsey Graham's office, and also the DC staff as well, to invite him to join us as well. We will keep you updated as we look forward to having Senator Graham join us in the future. Mr. Harrison, I understand that you are taking a few minutes before going into your prep for the upcoming debate. When is it?
It is this Friday coming up. And thank you, Ivory. As you know, we had a debate this past weekend. We have one Friday and then another one at the end of the month. And so I appreciate all of the kind words and support that we've gotten from folks about our performance. And I just want to thank you all for putting these forums on, because they're so important in terms of informing people about what's going on and giving them an opportunity to talk with the candidates about the issues that are important to them. And there's no issue that is more important than our school systems and the schools in which our kids attend. It's important to have the right folks representing us on those school boards, because they dictate the education and the quality of education that our students receive. It's about making sure our kids can be able to compete in this new economy that we are in, and that means they have to have a certain set of skills in order to do so. One of the issues and problems that we're seeing across communities here in South Carolina is the lack of broadband, and we need to make sure that in all of our communities that our kids can connect with the rest of the world, because they can't even compete with the rest of the world unless they are connected. And so I applaud all of the candidates running for school board this year. It's my honor and pleasure to be on a ballot with all of you, and I wish you the best of luck. And I just want to tell the listening audience, it's so important that you go to vote. Every aspect of your life is touched by somebody that is in elected office. From your kids in the schools that they go to the hospitals that you attend in those moments of emergencies, to the housing that you have, whether or not you own your own home or you rent your home. All of those things are impacted by folks who are in elected office. And so it's important that you go and exercise your right, because if you don't, you are giving somebody else the authority to make that decision for you. And it could be that neighbor across the hallway that you don't like, who doesn't believe the things that you believe. So just make sure you go and exercise that right. I call October the month of voting. November 3rd is voting day, but October is voting month. We can all go and vote early. So make sure that you go and get the information. You can go to sevotes.org, get the information that you need to make sure that you have a plan to go off and vote. That's so, so important. Not only should you vote for president and U.S. Senate, and I appreciate any support, but make sure you go and vote for your city council, your county council, your state house, your state senate, and most importantly, your school board. That's really, really important in terms of the future of your kids. So thank you all again. Best of luck. And I look forward to seeing the candidates on the campaign trail and the voters. You know what you need to do. So go and do it. And thank you so much. Make sure you take some friends and family with you when you go.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Mr. Harrison, for joining us. Thank you.
Thank you.
I did say I was going to turn it over to Ms. Hardy, but I have one more special guest I'd like to ask to say a few words, and that's our chairman of our Housing Authority Board, which is Ernest Cromartie. If you'd like to say a few words before we begin.
I would. Thank you, Ms. Matthews. Welcome everyone to Zooming to the Polls. I'd like to say thank you to all of the candidates for your commitment to public service and giving of your time and your talents to the school district or some local office. And so we are honored to have you and thank you for your commitment. I'd like to also thank Mr. Austin and Mr. Felder, Mr. Ford, and Mr. Whitmire for your participation in this project and your commitment to making sure that everyone is informed and empowered with respect to their vote. Last but definitely not least, I'd like to acknowledge our staff for having pulled this together, having done so several times and continuing to do so in their commitment to citizens of Columbia and our residents in particular when it comes to their vote. This is very important. One more thing that it's important is I see two of fellow housing commissioners. I see Commissioner Pickens and Commissioner Miarton. Want to acknowledge both of those young ladies and their assistance and leadership. And I will quiet myself and pay great attention to what our candidates and future public servants have to say. Thanks again.
Certainly. Thank you, Chairman. I'll turn it over now to Ms. Hardy.
Thank you so very much, Mrs. Matthews. Again, it's great to have so many of our community leaders, organizations, residents, staff, faith leaders in our community joining us today. Just a few housekeeping things. We will be using the chat room at the bottom of your screen throughout today's session. And also, if you guys are going to be speaking, just be mindful. You're live unless you mute yourselves. And so we're hearing some people's conversations. And so just be mindful and take a minute to mute yourself if you need to mute yourself. We also invite you to list questions that we'll cover later. Use that chat room is what I'm trying to say. So today our Q&As are going to be handling by the moderator. That's me and Ms. Roberts from our communications team. We have a whole allotted time of 1 hour and 30 minutes today. We're usually 1 hour and 15 minutes. We might finish up just a little bit early, but that's the allotted time. Before we hear from our candidates, we would like our resident experts on the voting process to help. Lee McRoberts, I'm going to ask you to check and see if Reverend Austin has joined us and Dr. Felder has joined us. I see Mr. Whitmire and I see Mr. Ford. I'm going to have a question for each of our resident experts in their respective areas. And thank you all for being with us. And I'm going to go ahead and start with you, Chris Whitmire, spokesperson for South Carolina Elections Commission. Thank you for all that you've done to be with us each week that you can, to be able to help us to kind of set the tone and understand all of the ins and outs when it comes to voting in this very, very different election season. So, Chris, I'm looking at lots of different things, and the latest thing that we're seeing, of course, is that the courts now have been going back and forth on the signature issue. I know what I read most recently, but I need to hear it from the horse's mouth. Where are we now?
It's hard to keep track of, I know, for me too. The latest is that this week the Supreme Court ruled, the U.S. Supreme Court ruled on the matter. It pretty much ends it for the 2020 general election, and that orders that the witness signature is required, and any ballots that are received through today without a witness signature, they'll be treated the same regardless of whether it has a witness signature or not. So they'll be counted. After today, witness signature is required. So if you have a ballot out there and you're getting ready to mail it back, make sure you get that witness signature. It does not, the witness can be literally any other person. Doesn't have to be a notary, doesn't even have to be an adult, doesn't have to be a voter. It could be literally any other person. So get that signature on there, have them provide the address, and make sure it gets back on time before 7 p.m. on election day.
Mr. Whitmire, I also saw that we're setting records when it comes to absentee voting and the applications that you're receiving.
That's right. The record for absentee by mail was set in the 2016 general election. That was 140,000 absentee by mail ballots. We're somewhere in the neighborhood now of about 450,000 people who have applied just for an absentee by mail ballot. Total absentee, so in-person absentee, opened on Monday, where you can just go down to the office and do everything at the office, vote in person, very much like you do on election day. And we've been doing 20,000 people statewide every day. Haven't seen the numbers for today, but Monday it was 20,000, Tuesday it was 20,000. At that rate, you know, we'll do something in the neighborhood of 450,000 people voting in-person absentees. So very much in the realm of possibility that 1 million people could vote before election day in this election, which is very extraordinary.
Certainly, very extraordinary. Here's something, Mr. Whitmire, I think that we miss sometimes, and I want to make sure our organizations that are our residents, as well as other people, other community folks, kind of know this. If I request a voter, an absentee ballot, I'm telling y'all to turn your mute off. There goes my phone.
My phone was ringing too. I understand.
So, Mr. Whitmire, if I request an absentee ballot and I can't change my mind once I've done that and show up at the polls to vote, and I want you to explain why that is the case. Yeah,
you can, but you can't. Yeah, you can't just change your mind and just show up. You got to do something in between. So this is what I would tell about. If you've applied for an absentee by mail ballot, wait to receive that ballot. You may not have it yet, but it's coming. You can go to scvotes.gov and click check my absentee ballot. You can see the date they received your application. You can see the date your ballot was mailed. And then when you return it back, you can see the date that they received it back. But if you've applied, go ahead and wait for that, because you've already asked for a ballot. One's coming to you. If you do decide, you know, look, I've decided I don't want to vote absentee by mail anymore, you still need to wait to get it and return that ballot unvoted to the voter registration office. Then you could vote in person absentee, or also go vote at the polls on election day.
That's important, because I've seen people on social media indicating, well, I haven't gotten my ballot yet. I think I'm just going to go on down and vote. And so we want people to know that we just can't do that. You know, we just can't decide that because we don't have the ballot, we're going to show up. Because as far as the roles are concerned, we've already requested a ballot and you're expecting us to. Otherwise, we'd be looking at voting twice, which is not allowed.
Right, and I would add this to that. Now, if you've requested your ballot, you go to scvotes.gov, you see they mailed it on a certain date, and it's been plenty of time for you to have received your ballot. You know, it's a week or more later, and you look at it and go, why haven't I gotten my ballot yet? You should call your county voter registration office, or even go down there and say, look, I applied, but it's not here yet. I don't know what happened. I'm afraid something's happened with my ballot. They can spoil that ballot and issue you another one. The check on making sure, here's my phone, let me stop that. The check on making sure a person doesn't vote twice really happens when the ballots are coming back.
Sure.
So that person, so you're going to have these situations where somebody requested a ballot and it never comes because maybe no fault of the voter registration office, maybe no fault of the voter. Something happens at the postal service and they never get it. They need to contact their office. They can issue them another one. we just don't want large numbers of people doing that, because that gets to be hard to handle. So
I got it.
there can be situations where the voter registration office will need to issue them another ballot and can do that. But sort of my broadcast message is, hey, just if you've requested an absentee by mail ballot, be patient. It's coming. Get that ballot. And my recommendation would be to vote it and carry it back voted, or either mail it back voted.
Well, thank you so much, Chris. Thank you very much. You're one of the most watched people on TV right now, because you're having to say something to the media each and every day. So we appreciate your being with us today. Hang out as long as you can. I know you've got a board meeting coming up pretty soon. And
I'll stay on for a few more minutes, see if anybody has any questions.
Perfect. Vince Ford, we're coming to you next as one of our resident experts. We want to thank you for being with us each and every week too. As a former resident of ABC Allen Benedict Court, in the past, you've relayed to us that you know how involved Columbia Housing residents have been in the voting process for decades. Can you talk to us about why it's so important that we understand our legacy? You know, because some of us are new to Columbia Housing, our legacy as we encourage our residents to vote.
Well, Cynthia, thank you so much. And it's certainly a pleasure to be here as well. Columbia Housing is so important to the fiber of the city of Columbia and Richland County. Because public housing or affordable housing is so critical to the success of a community. And I appreciate the fact that Columbia Housing has been involved in all aspects of the residents' life, not just a place for them to be housed, but from a healthcare standpoint, they partner with Prisma Health to encouraging them to vote, to helping them in other areas as well. And I would say, you know, there are two things that there are a lot of things that are important in life, and I'll just speak for myself. One is my faith, and then second is my ability and opportunity to vote, because that vote, it makes all of us equal at the time. And I'm happy that you have a school board candidate forum today, because I think it's probably the most important part of the voting process. All the other entities are equally important, but voting for the future of my children and the future of my community is so critical.
Thank you so much, Ford, and we will be coming back to you and our other resident experts as needed during our conversation today. Ms. McRoberts, do you have anything that you want to add right now before we go to our candidates? I haven't seen Dr. Felder, and I got a message from Reverend Austin that he's putting out some fires down there at his location at the voter registration and elections office, and that he'll be joining us shortly.
Okay.
Have you seen anything from Dr. Felder yet?
I have not seen anything from Dr. Felder. Hey,
Okay, we'll just kind of move on then, because we want to go ahead and get into the meat of things now. We do want to remind our participants to go to the chat room, post your questions. But at this time, I would like to pivot to Ms. Bean, Yvonne Bean. Before we hear from the candidates, Ms. Bean, would you go ahead and talk to us about what we're looking at in terms of our rules for this evening's discussion? Ms. Bean's muted. There you go.
Absolutely. I'm sorry. Good evening, everyone. Thank you, Cynthia. We are very excited to have all of the candidates vying for the Richland 1 School Board confirmed for this evening. Thank you to each of you for offering yourself for public office. These are the rules for today's Zooming to the polls. We want our audience and candidates to know that this is a discussion, not a debate. Questions will be asked by our moderator, Cynthia Hardy, and Lee McRoberts, who is also on our communications team. The order of questions will be directed to candidates will be in alphabetical order. Cynthia will ask the initial question as a means of letting each candidate introduce him or herself. You'll each have 1 minute to respond. We'll post the clock countdown, and we ask that each candidate please be mindful of your time. For all subsequent questions, candidates have up to a minute to respond. Some may finish before a minute, and that's fine. For audience members who want to ask questions, you may post them in the chat box, and we will retrieve them from there. Again, thank you to the candidates for your willingness to serve and for being willing to offer yourself for public office. Thank you again, and back to you, Cynthia.
Thank you, Ms. Bean. So candidates, welcome, and thank you all for saying yes, and thank you all for being here with us tonight. I do want the first question you guys touched start with you. We're going in alphabetical order, and we're not going by races. So we're going to mix up the at-large candidates and the candidates in each of the districts that are running too, and it'll be going by alphabetical order. So we want each of you to introduce yourselves and tell us why you're well suited to serve on the school board. So John, we're coming to you first, and Ms. Clyburn, that means we'll be coming to you second. And I think Mr. Devine, that means that you'll be third. Mr. Devine, yes. So Mr. Adams.
Thank you all very much for having this forum. It's great. Thank you for the Columbia Housing Authority and Cynthia Hardy. Please, thank you very much for having us here. I'm excited to be here. I just sent Mr. Cromartie a message reminding him that our fathers actually served on city council together back in the good old 80s. So hello, Mr. Cromartie. So anyway, my name's John Adams. I'm running for the one of the two at-large seats for Richland 1 School Board. I'm excited to be a candidate. I'm a native of Richland County in Columbia. I grew up in Shandon, still live in Shandon. I'm a parent of Richland 1. I have two sons that are in Richland 1 schools, Creighton and Flora, AC Flora. I'm a former student of Richland 1 schools and care much about the district and have been involved during my lifetime. I'm running basically to put kids first. That's my main goal, is to make sure that the school board is putting kids first with every decision that is made. That's why we're here, and that's who we should be serving, most importantly. Also, transparency and communication are obviously things that a lot of candidates, almost every candidate, always talks about. But we have to show that we're actually backing our talk up with true transparency and real communication. Which yesterday with the school board meeting that was scheduled for 6 o'clock, it didn't happen. I'm sure there's a good reason for it, but that doesn't help our communication or our trust factor with the public when things like that happen. So we need to get to the bottom of those things and just not let things like that happen to continue to foster good trust with our citizens, students, and parents and staff, teachers, everyone. So I wanted to unify. One of the reasons, thing I want to do when I get there is to unify the board. I think right now there's a fractionary board. Right now there's people that are board members that don't.
Running out of time, Mr. Adams. Wrap it up in 10 seconds, please.
Okay, and also want to get kids back face to face. At least have an option for face-to-face. So I'm excited for talking more about that in the future. Thanks.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Adams. Ms. Clyburn. And the question, Ms. Clyburn, is please introduce yourself in a minute and tell us why you're well suited to serve on the board, the school board. I saw Angela Clyburn earlier. Are you still there, Angela? We're going to go to Mr. Devine. Mr. Devine, the question is, please introduce yourself and tell us why you're well suited to serve on the school board.
Thank you, Cynthia. Thank you to the Columbia Housing Authority for having this Zoom call, Zoom into the polls with us today. I'd like to start off our talks with a quote, and the quote for today is from Nelson Mandela, who said, "Education is the most powerful weapon which you can use to change the world." And over the last 12 years, I've been a part of a school district and a part of this community that has helped change the world for a number of our constituents, a number of our students. And so I'm asking for 4 additional years from our constituency to continue and build upon the things that we've done in Richland School District 1. Some of those things include a high quality early childhood education, where we continue with the long-term outcomes of ensuring that all of our students get the best education. Secondly, is that we want to ensure that all of our students continue to graduate college and career ready, providing them with a solid foundation for success in their future endeavors. And then finally, we want to continue to support programming that documents unique learning opportunities for all of our students throughout the district that provides them multiple pathways to success, whether that's IB program, whether that's Montessori, whether that is a cyber security program, whether that is our leadership program, our magnet health program. I want to continue to build upon those and explore other programs that is needed to ensure those multiple pathways of success will be there for all of our students as they graduate. And again, thank you all for having us, and I look forward to the conversation.
Thank you, Mr. Devine. Again, the question, introduce yourself, Mr. Harley, and let us know why you're well suited to occupy a seat on our school board.
Okay, as you all can see, I'm out of breath, so just give me like 3 seconds.
The time has
Okay.
already started, Mr. Harley.
Okay, all right, yes. So I'm grateful to be here today. My name is Shay Harley. I'm running for Richland School District 1, school board at large seat. I am a single parent father of autistic twins, full-time single parent father of autistic twins, military veteran, graduate University of South Carolina. And I am a media personality in the Columbia area, and I'm a community activist. There's no surprise that I am a very active individual in the community, and I pour my heart into it. And I think the public knows. I feel the public knows. And I don't want to spend the rest of the time to talk about me. I want to spend the rest of my time to talk about mental health. Mental health is a serious thing. And I definitely want to give a shout out to everybody that's running today. I care about human beings and I care about people. And I pour my heart and I put my heart into people. And I want to pour my heart out to everybody that's running. And I know that all of us in certain ways are going through something during this election.
Time, Mr. Harley, wrap up in 10 seconds.
And I'm grateful for the opportunity, but there's no surprise. I'm ready to go to work for the school board.
Thank you so much, Mr. Harley. Thank you so much. Ms. Hinton Harris. We're going to move on to Ms. Hurston.
Good afternoon, Ms. Hardy, and thank you so much for the invitation to participate.
Yes, ma'am.
My name is Jacqueline Hurston, and I am a former teacher in Richland 1 District 2. I am a pastor of an AME church. I am also I'm a certified grief specialist. I have a doctorate degree in grief care and mental health first aid. And my decision to run was primarily based on what I was seeing as the pandemic started to unfold and the activities that were centered around the children and the parents and the families. And I'm not sure that we as the board has taken the opportunity to investigate fully all of the parameters that are going to have to be dealt with in terms of what is needed for the children. Getting them back in school is one thing, but we really have to think about the total person, the total child, the total parent, the total district as a whole. And I think as an educator, a retired educator, I bring to the board a different flavor, and I think I bring to the board skills that might be useful in making this more successful for the next 4 years. I am just a country girl, just trying to do something to help my babies. And I noticed that the children that are in the schools now are the babies of the children that I taught. And I just want to make sure that they have an opportunity like our children did.
Thank you so much, Ms. Hurston. So we're going to move now to Jonathan Milling. Mr. Milling, we're asking you to introduce yourself and tell us what suits you to remain on the school board because you are an incumbent.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you, Ms. Hardy, and thank you to the Columbia Housing Authority for hosting this. I think it's a great opportunity for really everyone to get to know the candidates. As she said, my name is Jonathan Milling. I was just elected in the special election on New Year's Eve. So I've been in office for a whopping 9 months. I am not originally from Columbia. I'm originally from Darlington, but I have lived in Columbia since 2001. My law practice is on Divine Street in Columbia. So not only do I live in the Richland 1 footprint, but my law practice is also in the Richland 1 footprint. I've got 4 children, all of whom are in public school here in Richland 1. I am a public school product myself from elementary school all the way through law school. I am the son of a public school teacher and the grandson of a public school librarian. So I have grown up in and around strong teachers, and I recognize the importance of having that. looking at the school board, in my mind, in my opinion, it is our goal, it is our job to make sure that we are giving every student every opportunity that they can to be successful in life. It is our job to set policies to make sure that we're giving them those opportunities. How do we do that? Well, one thing that we need to do is make sure that we are giving the teachers the support that they need, that we are giving them the tools that they need to be successful. We need to make sure that we are providing support for them, providing them with educational opportunities themselves so that they can be great teachers in the classrooms. We need to make sure that we're partnering with the public to make sure that the public is in a position to be able to help our students. Our students, our children are the future of our society, and we need to make sure that we are giving them everything that they can or everything that we can to be successful so that they can help uplift our community. And it's our jobs to do that as a school board. So again, my name is Jonathan Milling. I'm running for one of the at-large seats. And thank you again for hosting, and for all the participants and for all the people who are viewing. Thank you all for being here with us.
Thank you, Mr. Milling. I know Tamika Myers was going to try to join us because she was getting off work. Ms. Myers, are you with us yet? And you guys, the reason I don't know is because there's so many of us on the call, I can't see everybody at one time. We're going to check back in with Ms. Myers. Ms. Thomas, thank you again for being with us, and thank you again for vying for one of the seats on the council. Introduce yourself and tell us to be on the school board for Richland School District 1.
Thank you for having this forum. I think it's so very important for our voters to know who they're voting for and to vote for people versus names. I'm running because I truly feel that we need champions, advocates for our students. It's time to have new voices and younger voices to advocate for our students. Transparency is big. I think we have to be more transparent in reference to budget and in communication, having effective communication amongst all of our community who is a part of Richland 1. One of the things that I really want to do as I run for board is create a pipeline into Benedict and Allen University. Right now, we have a pipeline that goes into Midlands Tech. We have a pipeline that goes into the University of South Carolina. I also want to see the same thing, the same result as it pertains to Benedict and Allen. So for me, that's very, very important. Also, we don't have an educator on our board, and I feel that's very important. I am a college professor, both at Benedict and Allen, and I think it will be very beneficial to have someone that has been in a classroom on the board. I'm also already boots on the ground doing community work with our students. So my community service with youth did not start with my candidacy, and I think it's important for people to know that I've been doing the work, and I think we need to continue to bring people in to the board that's on the ground doing the work. So that's why I'm running for Richland 1 School Board. I'm also running for the at-large seat. And it's important to know that you get to vote for 2 individuals in the at-large seat in this race, and you must utilize both of your votes. Don't allow your voice to be unheard by only utilizing 1 vote. Please vote for 2 people for the at-large race. This is very important. We're fighting for an entire generation.
Thank you so very much, Ms. Thomas. And finally, Ms. Shannon Williams, thank you for being with us today. Introduce yourself, please, and tell us why you're well suited to be on the Richland School District 1 School Board.
Hey, Cynthia. I want to thank you first of all for hosting this event. My name is Shannon Williams. I grew up in the Lower Richland community. I'm married with 3 children, and I am class of 1989 at Lower Richland High School. I feel as if I am uniquely qualified to be a school board member because I'm a retired police officer, 25 years in, and not only have I SRO, but I have also supervised 9 of our Richland 1 schools. So I can see things through a very different lens. I've seen what the teachers go through. I've been there with them on the front lines, and we have excellent teachers. And I think that we have to support them in a way that we can restore educational excellence back into our schools and offer our children opportunities that are there waiting for them. So I am running for seat 4, and I ask everyone to vote for change on November 3rd. Allow me to be a new voice and a new vision for Lower Richland.
Thank you very much, Ms. Williams. We're going to go to a round of questions now. We're going to alternate between questions that we receive from our residents and questions that you guys are posting in the chat. Leah, you getting lots of questions there?
I do have quite a few.
Okay, so before we do that, Charles has joined us, Reverend Austin. Charles Austin has joined us. And it's important that we hear an update from you. Are you there, Reverend Austin?
I am here, and thank you for your patience, Cynthia. As you guys know, on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, I have grand nanny duty, and sometimes that, of course, takes a little more time than expected.
Yes,
but things so far are going well with the satellite stations. Of course, with some first day glitches, we're getting those worked out, and we're trusting that as we continue into the process, that it will get smoother and better.
Let me ask you, Reverend Austin, because we've heard reports today that there were really long lines and that we were having some malfunctions with some of our machines and things like that. And you know, we have, we'll get whiplash, we'll have deja vu from last time. And so please tell us that the Richland County Voter Registration and Elections Commission is working on those things and is getting those things done.
We're working on them in real time, Cynthia. Of course, we would have hoped that the day would have gone well without any, but we did have some glitches. I'm very proud of how the staff has responded. Unfortunately, one of the big challenges is that we did have some people who were supposed to report today who did not do so. And so we've had to then resort back to that reserve pool that we talked about over the past few weeks. And people from the reserve pool have been responding. So I'm trusting that between now and November 2nd, things will get even more smoothly, go more smoothly.
Certainly. Was the issue an issue of programming that's difficult to fix, or is it something that's easier to fix?
Well, we have some new equipment that has been employed by the State Elections Commission. And of course, anytime you bring on new equipment, there is the possibility that there may be some minor glitches, and everything that we're dealing with so far is minor. But we would prefer having everything resolved to the point that if there are lines, it's because of the groundswell of voting interest and not because of anything that's going on inside.
You will keep us updated.
Oh, absolutely.
We appreciate Chief.
Absolutely.
And Chief, we appreciate your transparency, because that's one thing that you vowed to do, is to be transparent and to own issues as they occur. And so we do appreciate that. And you know, there are lots of people that are out there that are ready to be poll workers. If you all need more people, and you just let us know, we'll do everything that we can on all of our platforms to get the information out, to be supportive of your efforts.
Well, you know that we greatly appreciate all that the Columbia Housing Authority has done up to this point. You have been tremendous partners in this, and of course, working with Brother Vince and Brother Felder has been a real joy and plus. And I see so many familiar names and faces that have joined us again today. I can't say enough about the effort that the Columbia Housing Authority has taken in a leadership role in helping us make this work. And again, Director Matthews, I salute you.
I just got in the car.
Thank you.
No, sir.
We're gonna, and you guys, please mute yourselves. We're not taking questions from the audience, you guys. Please mute yourselves if you are not slated to speak, because we can hear you guys. We're gonna go next with the round of questioning. This question is from a former officer with the Resident Advisory Council. And it says, and you know, Mr. Adams, we're coming to you, and then Clyburn, Devine, Harley, Hinton Harris, Hurston, Milling, Myers, Thomas, and Williams.
And Ms. Hardy, are we gonna rotate all that? Am I gonna get the first question every single time, or?
Yeah, I told you, Lee, somebody was gonna say that. So Shannon, we're coming to you. I know you're ready. So we're gonna start at the bottom and go to the top this time, instead of starting at the top, going to the bottom. That evens it out. So Shannon,
be prepared, because
I hear you. Here's the question, you guys. Many of our students are currently doing a hybrid in-person learning and virtual learning. Most of them are doing a hybrid of in-person learning and virtual learning, or just all virtual learning. Now, this poses a problem for people who don't have access to high-speed internet. And I want to talk about how we address this issue. And Shannon, you're up. And so I don't see you on the screen at this time. So Shannon, let me give you the question now. It has to do with many of our students currently, and the question comes from a former officer with our Resident Advisory Council. Many of our students are currently either doing a hybrid of in-person learning and virtual learning, or just all virtual learning. And for some people, Shannon, as you know, this poses a problem for people who may not have access to high-speed internet. That's an issue for us at Columbia Housing. And we know if it's an issue for us, it's probably an issue for other students and parents around the county and our Midlands area. So what do we do to address this issue, Shannon?
Well, Cynthia, as you may know, there are close to 10,000 residents in the Lower Richland community that's without broadband. And so that really poses a very significant challenge for us when it comes down to educating our children during this difficult time. What we have to do is we have to work with our elected officials and try to find a solution. I know there are representatives that are working on that, especially for the Lower Richland community, and I'm sure it's statewide as well, but we really have to collaborate with other officials so we can not only provide broadband, but as the school district, now we have to figure out how we help our parents pay for that. So it's a challenge, but I think it's something that, as long as we work together as elected officials, I don't think it's anything that we can't handle, but we have to get the ball rolling. We're kind of behind the curve on this. It really should have been in place by now, but it's not too late. If we work together, we can accomplish that. But it takes us working together on that one, Cynthia.
Thank you so much, Shannon. We are now going to you, Ms. Raquel Thomas, about the virtual learning. And it poses a problem for a lot of people who don't have high-speed internet. And how do we address this issue? It's a big old issue.
Indeed it is. And I'm going to start with, not all of our kids in Richland 1 have a laptop. We need to get all of our students laptops, number one. Number two, I think we can do a few things to help the students that don't have broadband right now, like utilizing ETV. We know that there's an average of 3 TVs in our homes. So for the students that don't have broadband right now, if we just put the teacher's lesson on ETV, it will be a way to reach our students. I also feel that as we knew that this would be an issue, we should have found the money in our budget to simply pay for broadband for those communities. It's that simple. We cannot expect students to learn if we don't give them the proper tools. And if we're educators, the board, so on and so forth, want our kids to learn virtually, then we have to put in the infrastructure. It's very simple to me. And as stated, there are 10,000 households that don't have broadband, but we expect children to learn. We're already struggling. While the graduation rates were higher in 2019, we still need to do better. We have only 2 schools over the state standard, and that's when they were in the classroom. So now we are falling further behind because we don't have the right infrastructure for our students to learn because we don't have broadband, and it's an issue. So I think we have to simply find a budget to put broadband in those areas where there is an issue. And for now, we can simply use ETV so that we can at least allow our students to watch the lesson from their teachers. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Thomas. Ms. Myers, have you joined us? Okay, we're gonna go to Mr. Milling.
Thank you, Ms. Hardy.
Yes, sir, go right ahead.
Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Y'all are absolutely right that the lack of Wi-Fi and high-speed internet is a huge issue. I think that the idea with SCETV is a good idea, but it's going to be limited as far as the number of grades and classes and things like that you got access to. What I think that we need to make sure that we're trying to focus on is community partnerships. We've got churches that do have access to internet and broadband. And if we do a better job of partnering with them so that the students can go, whether they sit in a cafeteria with adults there who have passed the proper screening, that gives them the opportunity to have broadband there. The Richland County Recreation Commission has recently opened up. If we partner with them in areas such as Lower Richland, that gives them an opportunity. It is difficult to impossible for us to expect our students to go back at home and try to learn virtually if they don't have a laptop, if they don't have broadband, if all they're doing is relying upon paper assignments. We've got to do a better job of reaching them where they need to be reached. That's where the community partnerships are key for us to be able to give them the opportunity they need. But by the same token, we also need to make sure that we are focusing on returning to the classroom. So that's going to give the children an even better opportunity because they can get that in-person instruction. So thank you.
Yes, sir. Ms. Hurston?
I agree with everything that's been said so far, and I also offer as an alternative, utilizing our bus services to provide broadband for our students, to bring the buses to the areas where the children need it, because some children don't have any transportation to go anyplace else, and so it may be a good thing to employ the school bus system to bring broadband to the areas where they are lacking. And as Mr. Milling said, there are churches that have place. There's a church in a fellow pastor of mine has a bus that comes to his church, and they just all center around in their cars or wherever, sit around the bus, and they use the services as long as they need them. The bus is there all day. And I know bus sounds really weird, but in this day and time, everything is weird. So we have to utilize the services that are available and be creative in our methodologies.
Thank you very much, Ms. Hurston. Ms. Hinton Harris? Okay. Harley, you're up. And Mr. Harley, the question has to do with the fact that, there is a hybrid of, for a number of people with the education. I'm not sure what your children are doing, but for a number of people, it poses a problem because they don't have access to high-speed internet. And how do you address this issue as a school board member?
Yes, one of the things that I neglected to say when I was introducing myself, I'm a 16-year veteran of IT. I'm an IT specialist. I've served in the area for 16 years. So I have extensive knowledge about what it is that we need to do as a school district. And since I'm short on time, so I'll address some of the issues. First, we have to address at the district level. There's some of the things that some of my people that had went before me missed out. And so I'll address that. We have to address a lot of the issues at the district level. Every IT job that I've had, we've had a pandemic response team, and we met at least once a month to talk about what it is that we have in our IT infrastructure and what we don't have. We do a stress test on the network infrastructure to make sure that if during a pandemic that we have the IT infrastructure in place to handle something as such as a pandemic. That's on that part. Also, we have to use the resources that we have. I think it's excellent what ETV came up with. That was a great idea. We also have to improve the equipment that we're using. The laptops that we have do not suffice. We also have to work on partnerships. Now, we have to appeal to our federal, state, local, county council governments and city governments, and to appeal to them in this time of this pandemic to ensure that we have the humility to provide the resources necessary, financial resources necessary to provide the infrastructure that our schools need. This is the time to do it.
Thank you, Mr. Harley. Mr. Devine?
Thank you for that question. When it comes to Wi-Fi, we know that COVID has exposed a lot that has happened. And so in Richland School District 1, when we had to pivot back on March the 15th, March the 13th, when the schools were closed, we immediately deployed buses that had Wi-Fi in it. On them, we have approximately, I think it's 50 to 100 buses. Those were deployed in various communities to help our communities to make sure that those students had access. And then as we move forward to the current state, of affairs. We this past summer, Mr. Milling was there as well, voted to spend money. I think it was close to $3 to $4 million to get 6,800 laptops for our young people pre-K through second grade. We have a one-to-one device, third grade through 12th grade, and we've had that for several years now. And so we did go to pre-K through second grade. Those are not in yet because, as you can imagine, with COVID, it has slowed down the work supply with the Intel chip. And so across the entire country, computers have been delayed. And so therefore, we don't have those computers. However, some of them are in. Some of our Title I schools have pre-K through second grade that do have devices that we're using throughout the school district. And we have over 5,000 hotspots that were given to us either at the district level or either at the state level through the CARES Act. And so we participate with the state to ensure that our students get the hotspots that they need at no cost to the family. Let me say that again, at no cost to the family. So we're grateful for the state and our district for paying for those resources for our families. Now, some parts of our district, until you lay the fiber, you cannot get broadband or Wi-Fi. I don't care what you do as far as the internet, trying to get it. But there are some parts of our district where there's no Wi-Fi. And so we're working again with our federal and our state governmental officials. We recently sent a letter to Congressman Clyburn, who was a proponent for the broadband bill. We sent him a letter of support. And so we are moving forward with the broadband and bringing that to fruition. And it takes several hundreds of millions of dollars to make that happen. So
thank you, time, Mr. Devine. I don't see Angela Clyburn on. I don't think she's hopped back on yet. So we're going to go to you, Mr. Adams.
All right, thank you. I agree with a lot of the suggestions that our candidates have talked about. I just think it's hard to swallow sometimes when a board or a superintendent makes a decision to go fully virtual and not supply the tools for every child to actually be able to learn virtual. I don't understand that. It's kind of like telling a child to do their homework or doing an assignment in class and not giving them the paper or pencil to do it with. I think I hate to use the word, but it's a failure on the district's part that we did not get to the point where every child had access to broadband or access to the internet, whatever form that may be. So I think that this is, as much as it's hard to plan for a pandemic you don't know, you've never planned for before, or it's a moving target, I get that. But ultimately, we have failed some 10,000 students that don't have internet access. And it should be at no cost to them to have the tools they need to learn. It's kind of like, I don't understand why any teacher whatsoever should pay for anything out of their pocket to allow a teacher to set their classroom up for the success of their children. That boggles my mind. And so this issue boggles my mind that we do not have internet access in some form, whether it be a hotspot or satellite broadband or however it works. I'm not the IT specialist. Mr. Harley can talk about how you set it up, but it should have been set up. You can't go virtual without giving the tools to the children to learn.
Thank you very much, Mr. Adams.
We work with people now to get it done, but we're way behind the 8 ball on that. So it's a shame.
Thank you, Mr. Adams. Ms. McRoberts, hey, Lee, I know that you're taking questions from the audience, and I know that you have a question that we're going to go around to everybody with. So keep in mind, we're doing the reverse order. So Mr. Adams, you'll be up first. Then if Angela Clyburn pops in, then Mr. Devine, Mr. Harley, Ms. Hinton Harris, if she pops in, Ms. Hurston, Mr. Milling, Myers, Thomas, and Williams. So Lee, what do you have? We may have lost Lee McRoberts. Okay. So guys, in real time, I'm gonna go to the chat. And wow, there are a lot of questions over here. Let's see what we have. Lots of people, lots of questions. Okay, here's my question for the panelists. As the leader of South Carolina's only dedicated early childhood agency, South Carolina First Steps, I'm deeply concerned about the rate of out-of-school suspensions for preschool children in Richland 1. South Carolina as a state, has the second highest number of out-of-school suspensions of preschoolers in the nation. South Carolina as a state has the second highest number of out-of-school suspensions for preschoolers in the nation. And that terrible reality is largely due to Richland 1. In Richland 1, 267 preschool children experienced out-of-school suspension in the last reported year. This hurts working families. It's a long question. It's more of a statement. It hurts working families and is harmful and developmentally inappropriate for 3rd and 4-year-old children. Okay, it's more of a comment, you guys, so I'm going to get you to respond to it because it's not a question. Richland 1 suspends and expels Black students at a disproportionately high rate. Black students make up 72% of our students. Okay, but 85% of the expulsions and 88% of out-of-school suspensions. How do you plan to address this as a school board member? Okay, and it lists the federal data source so that you know that the data is right. So let me get back up here a little bit because I need to make sure you all understand the question. So I'm going to read it all again, okay? Here's my question for the panelists. As the leader of South Carolina's only dedicated early childhood agency, South Carolina First Steps, I'm deeply concerned about the rate of out-of-school suspensions for preschool children in Richland 1. South Carolina as a state has the second highest number of out-of-school suspensions of preschoolers in the country, and that terrible reality is largely due to Richland 1. In Richland 1, 267 preschool students or children experienced out-of-school suspension in the last reported year. This hurts working families, is harmful and developmentally inappropriate for 3- and 4-year-old children. Richland 1 suspends and expels Black children at a disproportionately high rate. Black students make up 72% of our students, but 85% of expulsions and 88% of out-of-school suspensions. How do you plan to address this as a board member? And so we did the reverse order. So you're up, Mr. Adams.
Wow, that's a really deep question. Certainly, when I get elected, I should research this in a board member capacity, knowing more information if I was there. But I would assume that we would need to identify children that may have behavioral issues in the classroom and work with counselors in the school to make sure that their behavior doesn't upset the classroom. I guess behavioral issues is upsetting the rest of the students, so therefore they get in trouble and get suspended, or they have some other behavioral issue that's happening in the school. So I guess my quick answer would be to identify students that do have issues and give the students to work with the counselors in the school to form a plan for them to cohabitate in a better way. So I would have to dig in deeper as a board member, though, to get into the numbers.
Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Thank you very much, Mr. Adams. Mr. Devine, you're up.
Thank you for that question regarding suspension of our suspension rate. I will note that back about 2015, 2014, 2016, we did notice that was an increase with our younger K through 2nd grade suspension rate. So at that point, we changed our student code of conduct. We went and looked at various programs, research-based, that other districts were doing across the country. And we have several models within our school. One is PBIS, which is positive behavior in schools. One is Leader in Me, Capturing Hearts. We have various mentoring programs throughout our district. I do want to say that number has decreased, and we're honest and we're open and we're transparent. So you know the number because the number came from Richland School District 1. So we're not hiding from this. We're saying that we are instituting some programs that have worked in other states and other school districts. And so we want to continue to see that number to decrease. And we're working some other MTSS, which is our multi-tiered standard services, where if there's a issue, we try to find out what the problem is. Is it that the child can't see? Is it that the child has a toothache? Is it the child saw something at the house? Did something happen on the way to the child's school? So we continue to work with that and monitor that. And so we do see a suspension decrease. in our elementary schools? I appreciate that question. So again, we implemented some programs, and again, over time, we will continue to see that number decrease. And I want to continue to part of the board to make sure that that continues to happen.
Thank you, Mr. Devine. Mr. Harley?
Yes, so I can first and foremost say that I am very well knowledgeable of this because my family has been affected by this first and foremost. You know, suspensions is a serious thing because we're not thinking about what it is that the child is going through. My son was assaulted at one of the schools, and the protocol that was followed, I did not agree with. And I'm not in a mode of bashing the district. I want to be a part of the district to help the district, to improve the district. And so my son was suspended for defending himself from a bully, from someone that assaulted him. And so I don't think that's the proper protocol that should be done. I think we need to do a better job with connecting families, because families with the schools and with the administrators, and we need to get family on family to talk to each other. We need to get psychological help for these students. We need to get more social workers back in schools, and especially when it comes to special needs in our special needs community, because a lot of these issues have to do with mental issues, and we have to get our families connected and get families to communicate and make those connections, because right now that is not happening.
Thank you, Mr. Harley. Ms. Hinton Harris, have you joined us? Ms. Hurston?
We are all walking grief issues, and we're grief issues because anytime our comfort zone changes, anytime our comfort zones are disturbed, we will have problems. We will have adjustment issues. We will have things that we need to do in order to readjust to the status quo. The world is in a grief state right now. So if the children are already being suspended at a high rate, this possibility is going to, the possibility of it increasing is even more prominent at this point. And so we, counselors, social workers are all good, but they're already overworked. We need to be able to pull in other qualified persons who can do the kind of counseling and provide the kinds of services that the children need. I've worked with 2- and 3-year-olds in a daycare, and some of the things that you see that when they come in the morning screaming and crying, and when you find out what they dealt with the night before, would make you scream and cry. So there is an incredible need to pull in some other services and make sure that we are accommodating the needs of all the children. When the children are suspended, somebody needs to talk to the family. Somebody needs to talk to the home.
10 seconds, Ms. Hurston.
We really just need to provide more care. What we're doing might be okay, but it's not going to meet the needs.
Thank you, Ms. Hurston. Thank you. Mr. Milling?
Thank you, Ms. Hardy. And I'd like to thank whoever asked this question, because this is an excellent question. When we did our opening statements, I said that, you know, my first and foremost goal was to make sure that we are giving our students, our children, all the tools they need to succeed. If they're not in a classroom, we cannot do that. If we are suspending them, we are failing as a district because we're not giving them what they need. How do we combat that? How do we address this situation? We need to make sure that we got smaller class sizes. And I say that because having a smaller class size allows the students to get the individualized attention that they need. It affords the teacher the opportunity to really connect with that student. 3- and 4-year-old students are so impressionable. That is when they start to develop the building block and the foundation of loving school, of loving to learn, which really gives them the tools that they need to succeed moving forward. If we've got a smaller class size, that allows that connection, which can help shut down some of the disruption. It can't eliminate everything, but what happens is if we've got more teacher assistants or more counselors who are there to really be able to talk with the student, not just find out what happened, but find out why it happened to help address that situation. So thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Milling. Is Ms. Myers, have you joined us, Tamika Myers? We're going to go to you, Ms. Thomas.
I want to address the last thing Mr. Milling said. He stated that We need smaller classroom sizes. While I agree with that, we have to first get the teachers in the school. We have a huge teacher shortage. So right now that's impossible. I'm the student of Richland 1, and this question is personal for me. I'm the student that had difficult circumstances before I entered the school. I'm one of the kids that sometimes didn't have electricity, running water, food. I am one of the students with those different needs. When I sat in that classroom some days, we have to prepare our teachers and train them and coach them to deal with children from all cultures. That's a huge thing I think that needs to happen right now. Our teachers need to be able to help students from different cultures and understand that the African American culture is a little bit different than the Caucasian culture and the Asian culture. They have to be more prepared. And I think we could provide training for them and bring in coaches that specialize in these areas to help them. I also think that we need more counselors in our schools. We need to have counselors readily available so our students can go talk some of their issues out. And in some cases, our teachers simply aren't prepared to help them. So we have to provide the services they need inside the school. What's very real is school to prison pipelines. It is very real. So when we talk about discipline and putting children out of class because they're speaking, it should be unacceptable. So I'm thankful that the policy has been rewritten because the old policy simply didn't make sense. Students are different now, and students are going through things that students simply didn't go through 20 years ago. So we have to be prepared to help those students when they walk in the classroom, when they haven't slept all night, when they haven't
10 seconds, Ms. Thomas.
We have to provide additional services to help the child that has struggled before he or she sat in that classroom that morning and be more sensitive to that child.
Thank you. Ms. Williams, Ms. Shannon Williams.
Hey, thank you for that question, Cynthia. You know, as Ms. Thomas stated, that preschool to prison pipeline is very, very real. And, you know, I come from a culture where we should be proactive instead of reactive. So studies find that if our children are proficient in reading and writing before they get out of 3rd grade, it does decrease the behavioral issues. So when I was the SRO supervisor, one thing that I would impress upon the officers that I supervise is to understand that children sometimes come into the school with the weight of the world on their shoulders. That's why it's so important to make sure we have teachers in our classrooms. We're supporting our teachers when they're there. We're retaining them. We're recruiting at a high level. It's important to make sure that we are providing the resources to our children when they are in need. And sometimes, as Ms. Thomas stated, it comes out of the realm of education, but education should always be our focus, because that's the only way that we can combat this problem, is making sure that we're offering that our children are being educated. And we do that with supporting our teachers and making sure that they have the resources available to give to our students.
Thank you very much, Ms. Williams. We're moving on to another question, and this question is from a resident about, I know it's a staffer from the Rosewood Hills area about housing insecurity. Many of our students in the district struggle with housing insecurity. That poses special challenges to keep them on task. How would you address that? How would you address that? Many of our students in the district struggle with housing security or insecurity. That poses special challenges to keep them on task. How would you address it? Ms. Williams, we're starting first with you.
Oh goodness, I'm gonna go back and forth between me and the staff. Well, I mean, homelessness is an issue for our children. That's why, again, it's so important to make sure that we have teachers in our classrooms, because a lot of them don't have stability when they're at home. So every second of every day has to count when they're in the schools. We have to make sure that our teachers have the support that they need to make sure that they can provide that level of education to those children while they're in school. We have to make sure that we have aides in the classroom to assist our teachers. We have to make sure that every single dollar in our budget is going to go towards educating our children. So it all comes back to education and making sure that our teachers are supported so they can provide the resources that are needed to our children.
One girl on there, she had me
Thank
wishing
you. You guys, somebody is unmuted, and we're going to ask you to go ahead and mute yourself. because it was pretty loud a moment ago. Ms. Williams, were you able to finish your comment? I think you did. Ms. Thomas, we're asking that question about housing insecurity and what you do to address that. Those students have special challenges. It's kind of on the same vein as the previous question in reference to the expulsions and the things that lead to the expulsions and the myriad of issues that happen as a result of that. So struggling with housing insecurity, and how would you address these challenges? So Ms. Thomas.
Very similar to my last response, we have to get more counselors in our school to work with our students that are facing these difficult times. If we could provide additional coaching and training to our teachers to help them help that student cope, that would help greatly. Right now, I don't think some of them have the tools in their toolbox to really communicate with some of those students. School is a safe haven for many, many students. So I think one of the things we have to do is put ourselves in position to open the doors back up to schools. Do what we have to do so that it's safe, is a safe environment, because school is a safe haven for many of our students. We need aides in classrooms with 15 or more students. That would help greatly, having an aide in a classroom where there are more than 15 students, so that the child can get more one-on-one time with an adult if they need it, versus putting him or her out of the classroom. So again, I think it's very important for us to have more counselors in the school, provide additional training and coaching to our teachers so that they are better able to help the child cope while they're sitting in that classroom.
Sure.
Thank
you very much, Ms. Thomas. Mr. Milling? Well,
Thank you. And this is
make
another.
sure Tamika, Mr. Milling, before you begin, I just want to check and make sure Ms. Milling has not, Ms. Myers has not joined us. Okay, Mr. Milling.
Okay, thank you. And again, this is another excellent question. And it is very similar to the previous one, because if we've got teachers who are in a position where they can really start at age 3 and 4, developing the relationship, not just with the student, but also with the family, it helps the teacher know what's going on, to be a lot more considerate in the classroom setting of what the child might be experiencing at home. I think that as I mentioned in the last one, I think Ms. Thomas just mentioned it as well, if we got teacher aides or other assistants in the classroom, it only helps that situation, because those children are getting additional interactions and additional support. I think that if we looked at trying to have additional after-school opportunities, perhaps tutoring opportunities, it would give those students further or additional time in a classroom, in the school, to have extra support, not only just to get additional instruction, but also to make sure that they are getting that additional stability and the additional support. Because if they're worried about where they're going home, if they're worried about the next meal, it's going to be very difficult for them to be able to really focus as much as they need to in the learning environment. So I think that those are some of the things that we could really focus on and work with to make sure that those students are getting as much stability as possible and get the help that they need.
Thank you, Mr. Milling. Ms. Hurston?
As a classroom teacher, I've taken a lot of children home or found places for them to be and been able to provide the kinds of extra care that they needed. And it's important for us to recognize that the classroom may be the only safe place some children have. And if that is the case, then we need to be prepared to make sure the teachers are aware of the fact that they need that kind of care. And so like Ms. Thomas and Mr. Milling have said, training has to be done with teachers, sensitivity training has to be done with teachers. And you'd be surprised at what a difference it makes with children when they know that you care about them. And so maybe this whole thing needs to roll around to the district providing the right kind of care for the teachers, as well as providing counselors and social workers. But there are so many other facets of their lives that we have to deal with. And so housing insecurities, food insecurities, they're all wrapped up there together. And it makes sense for us to try to address some of those issues from a different perspective. We can't just say, well, they don't have any place to live, so we'll just have to work with them some other kind of way. No, we got to do something about that. We have to.
Thank you.
Hands-on.
Thank you, Ms. Hurston. Checking to make sure Ms. Hinton Harris has not joined us before I go on to Mr. Harley. Mr. Harley?
Yes, Cynthia, can you repeat the question, please?
Yes, sir. It's about housing insecurity for students. Many of our students in the district struggle with housing security that poses special challenges to keep them on task. How would you address it?
Okay, so I like this question. Thank you for the question.
Yes, sir.
As I was putting out signs the other day, I actually ran into a homeless man, and he was 65 years old. And long story short, we got to the point where we talked about education and how did he get there? How did he get to this point? And he told me that his family didn't care, and the schools that he was at, they didn't give him the help that he needed. And I asked, well, how could I help you? I said, I'm running for school board, but I can't help you on the school board. But let's just say I waved the wand and I ran for another higher position, I would help you. What would you need? And he told me that if I could get housing. And so we're living in a time where we have to appeal to humanity. We have to do what is right. We have to get our local and our federal government to give the necessary funding needed to provide people with the help that they need, whether it's housing, food, clothing. We are definitely living in a time that we have to make sure that people, our families, and even as far as homeless people and families have the necessities and the things that they need to operate. And I felt sorry for the man because, he felt like somebody left him behind. And we're living in a time where we have to make sure that 30 or 40 years from now, somebody's not homeless and they're not saying, my school district left me behind. Because I felt him.
Thank you, Mr. Harley. Mr. Devine?
Thank you, Cynthia. This is my expertise. I serve as president CEO of a local nonprofit that deals with housing today. But from a school district's perspective, we have about 1,000 to 1,200 young people that are considered homeless. And the federal definition of homeless is not having a permanent address. So that means that you may be staying with family members, friends, others, that you don't have a permanent address. And we have community partners such as Trinity Cathedral who have come in and helped us through the years. They've been great partners. Matter of fact, they just did a pop-up shop just yesterday at W.A. Perry Middle School to help us. We also have the Mckinney-Vento Act, which is a federal act that help our young people that when they are homeless, we will still provide transportation for them at no cost from wherever their new spot, their new home is to their current school situation. I remember back a couple of years ago, I think in 2019, when we had the Alameda Court to close, myself along with Dr. Witherspoon both made it a staple that we went down to the Cecil Tiller Center each day to stay with our young people to make sure they got off the bus. They knew where they needed to go. We had after school care at the Cecil Family Life Center.
I remember that.
Young people got what they needed. And that's part of that McKinney-Vento Act. So I want to continue
10 seconds.
Lobby for that on a federal level and the state level to make sure that we get those resources to all of our families. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Devine. Just checking with Angie. Is Angie here? Angie Clyburn? We'll go to you, Mr. Adams.
Thank you very much. I applaud Mr. Devine's efforts. That's great. And I think that is exactly what I was thinking we need to do we're doing it well. It sounds like we need to take advantage of our partnerships with our faith-based community and our housing agencies, Columbia Housing Authority, some of the child service agencies to identify children that are homeless technically or figuratively, to make sure that they are in a place where they feel like it's home, to be settled so that they can go to school and they can concentrate on what they're there for. Children don't need to be stressed about their living conditions. And that's hard for me to think about, knowing that we have a lot of kids that are now in a really stressful situation at home when they really want to be in school, hopefully learning, but just in a safe place, like someone else said. To away from a bad situation. So we need to absolutely take advantage of the partnerships that are in place to make sure that children are not homeless. That's a travesty if they are. It's a situation that can be remedied, and we need to be a major part of that.
Thank you very much, Mr. Adams. Now, this is the very last thing I'm going to ask you all to do before we hand it back over to our CEO, Ivory Matthews. I want each of the candidates to follow this format. My name is, I'm running in the blank race, and I can be reached at, okay? Because I've got to hand this thing back over to Ms. Matthews with enough time for her to get out of here on time. So I'm going to depend on you guys to be on time, okay? So I want you to tell us who you are. I want you to tell us the race that you're running in. There are a couple of districts, and then there's the at-large race, and let our audience know how we can reach you if we would like to reach you. We're going to start with you, Mr. Adams.
Hey, my name is John Adams. I'm running for Richland 1 School District at-large seat, 1 of 2. You can reach me on my personal cell phone at 803-920-2920. That is not a Google number. Yes, 803-920-2920.
Thank you, Mr. Adams. Ms. Clyburn, are you here? Okay, Mr. Devine.
Thank you, Columbia Housing Authority, for having this. Again, my name is Jamie Devine. I am running for 2, Richland School District 1, and I can be reached at area code 803-807-2576. And again, that number is 803-807-2576. Thank you all again.
Thank you, Mr. Devine. Mr. Harley.
Once again, thank you for your time. I'm very grateful. My name is Shay Harley. I am running for the Richland School District 1 at-large seat. I can be reached at 803-361-3728. Can be reached on Facebook, Harley for Richland 1, and Instagram, Harley for Richland 1.
Thank you so much, Mr. Harley. Hinton Harris, are you with us? Ms. Hurston?
Yes, thank you so much for the invitation. I thoroughly enjoyed myself. My name is Jacqueline Hurston. I am running for District 1, Seat 2, and you can reach me at 843-568-5475. 843-568-5475. Thank you for having us.
Thank you, Reverend. Mr. Milling?
Thank you, Ms. Harding. Thank you also to the Columbia Housing Authority for hosting this. My name is Jonathan Milling. I'm running for Richland 1 School District at-large seat. My cell number is the best way to reach me. That number is area code 803-261-6264. Again, 803-261-6264, or you can email me at jmm@milling, M-I-L-L-I-N-G, law.net. That's jmm@millinglaw.net. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Milling. Ms. Myers, have you joined us? Let's go to Ms. Thomas.
Thank you for providing this platform. It's so important for us to vote for people and not names, so I do appreciate it, as everyone else has stated. My name is Raquel Thomas, and I'm running for Richland 1 School Board at Large. In that race, you can select 2 candidates. Please utilize both of your votes, and also know that this is a race for the children. It's not about Democrat or Republican, but yet a race for children. I can be reached at 803-470-6273, and my email is info@Raquel, RAQUEL, the number 4, richland1.com.
Thank you, Ms. Thomas. Ms. Williams?
Hello, my name is Shannon Williams, and I'm running for Richland 1, Seat 4. You can reach me at voteshannonwilliams.com. My cell is area code 803-309-7878, and you can also reach me on Facebook at Vote Shannon Williams.
Thank you very much. Before I turn it over to Ms. Matthews, Mr. Austin, Mr. Ford, would you give us a short wrap-up comment, please? We'll start with you, Reverend Austin, and then you, Mr. Ford.
Okay, just an update. All 6 of the satellite sites are operational. The director and her staff are working in real time to correct those challenges that we had earlier. We believe tomorrow will be a better day, and the day after that will get even better.
Thank you so much, Chief. Mr. Ford? You're muted.
Hey, Ms. Hardy, thank you so much. Again, I want to thank the Columbia Housing Authority and the leadership of Ms. Matthews and all the other team members for the Housing Authority for finding it important to put on a voter forum. You have done this now for a number of weeks, trying to educate and inform the residents and the rest of the community It was certainly good to hear from the school board candidates tonight, to hear their views and their thoughts, because I think it's one of the most important things that as we go vote, that you can vote on as a school board candidate. So thank you, Ms. Hardy, for your calm demeanor in all of these sessions and how you navigate us through this process. And I would again tell people to just please participate in the electoral process, to register to vote, and then stay informed after November 3rd election as well. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Mr. Ford. And it's my pleasure to turn it back over to our CEO, Ivory Matthews. Ms. Matthews.
Thank you, Cynthia. We want to thank our audience and candidates, about participating tonight. We really appreciate everything that you contributed to the discussion. I also want to thank Dr. James Felder, Dr. Charles Austin, Chris Whitmire, and Vince Ford for all of the participation that you've done over the last couple of Zooming with the Polls sessions that we've had. Again, thank you to all the candidates for Richland School District for providing such a great session for us today. I want to also say thank you to our communications team for their efforts. I want to thank many of our staffers and residents on the call. I see you. Thank you for taking this hour and a half this evening to visit with us. Finally, I want to thank all of the great community partners that have blessed Columbia Housing with the work that we do to continue to educate our families and engage them in the voters' education process. We appreciate and value you all. Thank you, and I hope to see you all on October the 14th for our Zoom into the Polls, where we will be featuring all of our candidates for the Richland 2 School District Board. Thank you guys, and you have a great evening.
Thank you so much, Mrs. Matthews.
Thank you.